Welcome to the Charlton Select Board meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:30. Today is July 8th, 2025. We're at the Town Hall in Meeting Room 1. Just to note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live by Charlton Cable Access TV on Spectrum TV Channel 191, and recording is available on the YouTube channel for Charlton TV. Any member of the public who wishes to record a meeting must first notify the chair. That being said, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda would be announcements.
There are several openings on committees appointed by the Select Board. If interested, please fill out the talent bank form and email it to Mary at mary.devlin@townofcharlton.net, or just drop it off at the Select Board's office. The openings that we have are Activities Council, 2 members, Conservation Commission, 2 alternate members, Council on Aging, 2 members are needed, Cultural Council, 2 members are needed, Historical Commission, Historic District Commission, 2 members needed, WRTA Advisory Board, we need 1 member and 1 alternate member for that. Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 alternate members. Real estate and property tax bills, first and second quarter, will be mailed by July 1st. Payments are due by August 4th and November 3rd. You can pay at the collector's office during normal business hours, online through UniPay, or place this in a drop box located in the front of the town hall by the handicapped access. All I have.
Thank you very much. Next item would be open forum. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to come up and address the board?
Just real quick, Dave Forty is here from the recent appointment for the sergeant, for the position that was created when we created the sergeant, an officer position, so he's one of the new officers that was hired. We'll have the other officer at the next meeting. Just want to meet Dave. Dave comes from Sturbridge, he's been a sergeant over there for years, very qualified.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
I don't know if you wanted to meet him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you'd like to say a few words?
I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
We'll do something more formal at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Very
coming.
good. Nice meeting.
Anyone else for open forum? All right, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the regular minutes from our meeting of June 10th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, it's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda would be appointment and resignation. Andrew?
All right, our first appointment this evening is for the light equipment operator position for the highway department. 11 applications were received for the light equipment operator position. Interviews were offered to 3 and conducted by Lynn Dyer, Nick Peel, and Mark Oliver. They are recommending the appointment of Shane Gansky with a starting date of July 21st, 2025. The appointment is pending reference check, Corey background, and driver record check, obtaining a pre-employment physical and drug screen. I recommend the board make the appointment.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I would recommend the board to make an appointment.
Is there a second?
Second then.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Note that Nick and Shane are both here this evening.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Any further discussion? None? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
Andrew, you're welcome.
Next. Our next appointment is for Special Police Officer Keith Kluger. Attaches a request from Human Resource Director Lynn Dyer asking the board to appoint Keith Kluger as a Special Police Officer. I recommend the board make the appointment as requested with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
So move, I recommend the board make the appointment as requested with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a comment for the chief. Can you get people with police experience, please?
Any other discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Right, our next appointment is for traffic constable. The police chief is asking the board to appoint Jamie Fuentes as traffic constable. I recommend the board make the appointment as requested with the term expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
So move to appoint as requested with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, the next appointment is also for a traffic constable. Police Chief Dowd is asking the board to appoint Paul Russell as a traffic constable. We recommend the board make the appointment as requested with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? No? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes, it's unanimous. Thank you and welcome. All right, next item on the agenda would be Rick's third resignation.
Yep, we have one resignation this evening from the Council on Aging. We are notified by Council on Aging Director Michelle Drum that James Russell is resigning from the Council on Aging Board effective July 2nd, 2025. The board should accept his resignation, and a letter thanking him for his service is to the town is in your sign folder.
Remove with regret.
Second.
Any comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And again, thank you very much for your service, much appreciated. And we're moving down, we're a little early, but can we go to the scheduled appointments, or do we need to?
Yeah, we got everybody here.
All right. So the next item on the agenda would be, want to announce?
Yep. So this is for the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan update. So in November of 2025, the town of Charlton was awarded a grant in the amount of $43,470 to design and update the Charlton ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. The ADA transition plan was last updated in 2007. Jim Basic of Jim Basic Consulting Services, Mike Kennedy from the Center for Living and Working, and Connor Robichaud from CMRPC have been working on this update. They're here to provide a presentation of the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan to the board, which include areas of non-compliance found and the transition plan to bring those areas into compliance. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, welcome, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm Connor Robichaud from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. As Andrew said, we were successful with a grant from the Mass Office of Disability last year to fund this work. I've been working with Jim Basic and Mike Kennedy here for at least 5-6 years now to do these plans across Central Mass. They've worked on dozens of plans across the state, so they're going to walk you through some of the findings. I'd just like to thank the town and especially Andrew for helping coordinate and making this a smooth process. So appreciate it, appreciate your partnership, and thanks for doing the plan. With that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Well, actually, I'll turn over to Mike for introductions. Back to me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the select board now? Oh, okay, so my name's Mike Kennedy, and on behalf of Center for Living and Working, in partnership with CMRPC and Connor, with Jim Basic as a subcontractor, I just want to thank the town of Charlton for entrusting us in administering the ADA self-evaluation transition plan. In addition, I just want to give a shout out to all the town staff and board and committee members that assisted us along the way in putting this plan together. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Jim, and then I'll be back to talk about the self-evaluation.
So just a little introduction, for myself, and then I'm going to go to the format of the plan and some of the specifics, and then I might go back and forth. But I apologize up front, and I told Andrew, I said, probably looking at about 45 minutes, so please, hopefully you don't have to be somewhere by, 7:30. I'm a planner by trade, 40 plus odd years in the planning profession, different cities and towns across the state, and then past 30 something years his retirement in 2020 with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, comparable to what Con works well with. Actually, with Pioneer Valley, we did work in Charlton a number of years ago with the money through CDBG funding, and my staff oversaw the construction of the elevator project. So that was, because at that time, CMRPC wasn't doing CDBG work, and now they've kind of taken it to a new level, so they're doing work all over Central Mass and CDBG things. But doing that, my full time, I was still doing a little bit of the ADA work, and started working with CLW, Mike Kennedy, about 20 years ago. We've done collectively over 50 plans, and just in the past 5 years, 40, just under or just over 40 plans, ADA plans for towns all the way in cities in Pioneer Valley, in Central Mass, and in the eastern part of the state. So we've been quite busy. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about the some background information about ADA, about 529 CMR, comment then on the plan format so you can kind of get a feel of what it is. I don't know, Andrew, did the select board members get copies of the plan electronically?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll turn over to Mike, talk about the self-eval piece. I'll come back and do a general overview about the transition plan, how we address each building assessment, and then a general summary of findings. And I'll just come back on here to a couple of specific areas to bring to your attention. So the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law back in 1990 by President George H.W. Bush. It is a civil rights law. It's intended to give the equal access to all in terms of programs and services, and there be a civil rights guarantee to all, regardless of the physical or mental impairment. There are 5 titles under the ADA. You're bound, or you, a city, municipality, a jurisdiction, a local jurisdiction is bound by Title I and Title II. Title I, which you're probably more familiar with, is equal employment, equal opportunity employment. And Title II is state and local government program accessibility. And under Title II, there's a requirement for a self-evaluation and transition plan, which is what you have. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned, we, myself, did your original plan back in 2007, 18 years ago, your ADA plan. And when we go through more details, it will comment on some things that have been significantly improved since then, so that's good plus for you folks. The current standards that are in place under the ADA are the 2010 ADA standards. Those went into effect in 2012. Massachusetts also, is Curtis still your active building commissioner? Okay, so Curtis would be enforcing 521 CMR. That's a specialized section of the state building code which deals with accessibility compliance. Building commissioners are not responsible for ADA compliance, even though cities and towns are bound to comply with it. Their jurisdiction is limited to 520 CMR. So that's how often you see some concerns when things aren't being addressed. So Mass has 520 CMR. It's basically a construction code. So compliance is only triggered by construction, not civil rights. So if work done in a building is less than 30% value of the building, and under $100,000, only the work being done must be accessible compliant. If the work is less than 30% of the value of the building and over $100,000, then the work plus the access to the building, bathrooms, or a bathroom, not rooms, a bathroom, drinking fountains, some other things must be accessible compliant. If the work being done in a building is more than 30% of the value, then the whole building must be brought into compliance. And it's a 3-year window. So it would be, if you're doing work this year, it would be this year, look back past 2 years. Or if it's this year, I didn't do anything, then you took 2 years ahead. So it's a 3-year window of that, that percentage that's looked at. So there are different standards between ADA and 521 CMR. 520 CMR is about this thick, ADA is about this thick. And there are differences between the two. We look at the higher standard of the two. So when I go into more detail about how the plan's formatted, you'll see, how we do that. I'll give you 2 examples. Under the ADA, reach range is 48 for straight reach, is 48 inches above finished floor, regardless of where you are. You could be in a bathroom, a hallway, so that sanitizer right there you see in a wall which is compliant, can be no more than 48 inches above finished floor to the operating mechanism. The light switches, no more than 48 inches. 520 in CMR has that same 48 inches in common areas, but in bathrooms, for dispensers, for whatever reason, the reach range is 42 inches. So we go into bathrooms, we'll look at the 521 standard for 42 inches for dispensers, but outside here, we'll look at 48. So that's an example. Another quick example would be the grab bars in bathrooms. So under the ADA, the rear grab bar is to be at least 36 inches, and the side grab bar, 42 inches long. Under 521 CMR, they both have to be 42 inches long. So we've been in some buildings where they do 36 and 42. They went to the ADA standards, but they mustn't adhere to 521 because we're in Massachusetts and they must supposed to be 42. So the plan content and format, basically I was set up into, there's 4 sections. There's the front end, which is reference guide. I'm going to briefly hit upon. We have the self-evaluation piece, which is policies, procedures, practices, which Mike's going to talk about. The transition plan piece, which is individual building, facility, and recreation area assessments. And then the appendices, which has survey forms, any kind of recommended documents. We have a list of funding sources, and we recently added, which is a checklist for you to do. And I think, Andrew, you'd be interested in this. It's the last appendices, which on the self-eval, what would need to be done, you can check off the date completed. I know you already have taken action on some things, that's great. So we have 10 chapters in the front end, and we'd like to have this for you as a one-stop shopping guide. So if things come up, you can go there and address things which come up and deal sometimes daily basis. We have a chapter on more on the ADA and the 5 titles. We have another chapter on other federal accessibility regulations, including enforcement and contact information. We have another chapter in more detail on 521 CMR. We have a chapter on alteration of historic properties, because there are exceptions to historic properties, and then what you would need to do in order to get those exceptions. We have a chapter on EV charging station guidance. Back in 2010, I don't think that was 15 years ago, and I think, 1990, 2000 is 521 CMR, is that, or 2005? What's the most current?
2006, Jim.
2006. I don't think EV charging stations are really kind of in the forefront back then. So there's guidance, and basically you're looking at what standards would be for a parking space, which is running slopes, cross slopes, no more than 2%, accessible route to the charging device, and that be within reach range. So we have guidance on that in the so if you're going to put one in somewhere, which I know you have one up here, another one in, make sure you meet the guidance. Another chapter on ADA service animals versus emotional support animals, that comes up quite frequently, and we talk about what one should do. There are actually only 2 recognized service animals, a working dog and a miniature horse. Everything else, they're comfort animals. They're not service, so you have a right to do what you need to do to not allow that animal into your accommodation. We have another chapter on ADA compliant portable toilets. You have a portable toilet, we'll talk later on, by Memorial Field Playground. You have a couple others as well. We have never ever seen an ADA compliant toilet, because typically there's either the grab bars are too, even though they say they're the bigger, wider portable toilets, they're not ADA compliant. Typically the grab bars are too low. There's not enough clear space on the side, the wide side, or the front of the toilet. Often the dispensers are too high or over the grab bars, and none of that's allowed. We have another chapter on emergency eye wash stations, which typically would apply to highway, fire, police, but more importantly, which was more civilian-based, would be in school classrooms where there are laboratories. And we have added a chapter recently on accessible routes of travel and playground and surface materials. We give a number of different samples and examples of different types of acceptable, compliant materials for accessible routes. And there's some new materials out there, and we have pros and cons, a photographic example, and then a cost estimate for, I think it's going to be lineal foot or by square, I think it's lineal foot. So if you're doing something at some point, you can say, geez, well, these are options, and then you can see what the cost would be and that sort of thing. So that's the format of the plan. Right now, I'm going to turn over to Mike. He's going to talk about the self-eval. And the self-eval, there are 11 areas that we look at, but there's only 5 that's required. So we kind of take it another level to make sure things are fully addressed. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mike. He's gonna talk about the self-eval, and then I'm gonna come back and do a quick overview on the transition plan findings, and then a couple of key things we found.
All right, thanks, Jim. And everybody can hear me correct? Yeah. Good, good. Yep, so under Title II of the ADA, the municipality is required to, as Jim mentioned, there's 11 points, but really only, 7 points. So I'm going to go over most of them, which is basically the meat of this self-evaluation. So first is to designate a responsible employee as ADA coordinator. Andrew, the town administrator, serves as the ADA coordinator, per his disclosure at the ADA plan startup meeting that we had back in the fall. And Andrew was also listed as the ADA coordinator Find Your ADA Coordinator, available on the Mass Office on Disability website. Recommendation: the name and contact information of the ADA coordinator should be posted on the town's website and in the town hall. An ADA coordinator webpage should also be created, which would include related documents, including the ADA grievance procedure that will be further discussed. Next is adopt and distribute a public notice on the municipality's ADA policies, procedures of its non-discrimination policies. So, currently, the town's website does not have any public notice of non-discrimination policies regarding residents or visitors with disabilities readily available on the website. However, digging deeper in the town's website, in the Human Resource Department tab, there is a equal opportunity policy contained in the personnel regulations and guidelines. Recommendation: post a public notice of non-discrimination document on the town accountant's website and the Board of Selectmen, or now Select Boards tab, and or the suggested ADA coordinator tab. Oops, sorry about that. Next is adopt, distribute, and or post an ADA grievance procedure. The town accountant does have an ADA grievance procedure that was submitted to the Mass Office on Disability as part of your funding request to undertake this ADA self-evaluation transition plan. However, this grievance procedure is not immediately available on the town's website or posted in the town hall. Recommendation: an ADA grievance procedure should be formally adopted. Update the ADA coordinator's name on the sample grievance procedure submitted during the Mass Office on Disability ADA grant proposal, along with any current pertinent information. In addition, post the ADA grievance procedure on the town's website in the newly created ADA coordinator page. Next up, modify, maintain, and update policies, procedures, and practices, including job descriptions and hiring practices as required. A public entity shall make reasonable modifications in policies, practices, and or procedures when modifications are necessary to avoid discrimination on the basis of disability. The town accountant does not appear to have any formal reasonable accommodation or modification of programs or services policies in place, as there are no policies available on the town's website or the town hall. Although there's no formal reasonable modifications or policies in place, the ADA self-evaluation survey results from department heads and committee commission chairs show that town staff, committees and boards and elected officials are willing to assist residents or visitors if they request it. Recommendation, adopt a reasonable accommodation policy as well as a reasonable accommodations request form and incorporate non-discrimination language, essential function requirements and physical requirements in employment postings and job descriptions discussed, further in this presentation. And post the ADA reasonable accommodation policy as well as the reasonable accommodation request form on the town's website in the select board tab and or the ADA coordinator tab. Next up, provide reasonable accommodations to qualified individuals with disabilities. Based on what was available for review, a random sample of 10 job descriptions submitted during the self-evaluation process were reviewed. Most of these job descriptions were very good examples of what a job description should contain. Job environment, essential function, recommended requirements such as education, experience, knowledge, ability and skill, and physical requirement. And 7 out of these 10 job descriptions contain the following reasonable accommodation language on the physical requirements. Reasonable accommodations may be made to enable individuals with disabilities to perform the essential functions. Only the conservation director, local inspector, and heavy equipment operator lack this language anywhere in the job description. With the exception of the executive assistant to the fire chief, the physical requirements are consistent with the job. The physical requirements in this position require a person to walk, stand, and sit. Seeing that this is basically an in-office job, this language can be construed as discriminatory as for someone with a physical disability. A sample reasonable accommodation policy in request form for adoption by the select board is provided in appendix D&E. And just, I just want to thank all the folks that filled out that self-evaluation survey form and provided us with the sample job descriptions. Very helpful. Next on the agenda is maintain and upkeep accessibility features. Municipality must maintain inoperable working conditions, those features that are necessary to provide access to services, programs, and activities. During Jim Nye's facility assessment, a number of observations were made in direct violation of Title II. Items such as items placed in front of dispensers, operational buttons or defibrillators, restricting access or reducing clear width, interior or an excessive, interior and exterior doors with excessive operating force and closing speed. By the way, town accountant's not alone here. We hardly ever find compliant doors that have, closes. Missing elements such as tactile designated signage, missing protective equipment or insulation on sink plumbing, bathroom doors that don't fully self-close, debris such as sand and leaves accumulated at the base of curb ramps, gaps and changes in levels over a quarter-inch in accessible routes, and interior accessible routes that are less than 36 inches due to placement of furniture. Recommendation, these facilities should be inspected regularly to ensure compliance with program accessibilities. Provide auxiliary aids and services to ensure effective communications to those with disabilities. Overall, you did pretty well here. Based on viewing the available policies and materials, it's not clear to what degree the town complies with this provision, because it doesn't appear that information of this type is, part of the regular meeting notices and postings, and who to contact to arrange for providing such accommodations. The towns should ensure that accessibility and accommodation language appear in all meeting notices, including contact information in the advanced timeframe required to arrange the disability-related accommodation requests. Currently, it doesn't appear that the town has auxiliary aids such as, TTYs or any other devices that enable communication for people who are deaf, as there's no mention of that in the town's website. However, according to your town clerk, annual town meetings take place at the Charlton Middle School, and stated that assistive listening devices were recently added there. Jeff Sorrell, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, IT director, confirmed that there is a section that is blocked off where town meeting attendees can plug their heads into the soundboard to better be able to hear what is being said at the meeting. Again, that's kudos to the town of Charlton, because most towns do not, have that feature. And another, kudos, your website is actually screen reader friendly for people with visual impairments that rely on JAWS, which stands for Jobs Access with Speech, screen reading software. And currently Charlton uses government websites by Civic Plus. So again, kudos to you. So recommendation here, consideration should be given to printing or ordering some documents, reports, newsletters, minutes in alternative formats such as large print, braille, audio recordings, or documents stored electronically in accessible formats. Again, these kind of things are screen reader friendly. And it's also recommended that the town of Charlton add the following to all meeting agendas. If you need auxiliary aids and services for effective communication, such as a sign language interpreter, an assistive listening device, or print material in digital format, or a reasonable education programs, contact the ADA coordinator as soon as possible, preferably at least 14 days or earlier before the activity or event. In addition, this is not written down, but currently the town challenge does not have a ADA Commission on Disability as established under Chapter 4, Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8J. And a Commission on Disability, would comprise of, mostly people that have some kind of disability, it can be any kind of disability. Their job would really be to, monitor the accessibility in town. Once this ADA plan is ratified, they could study it and see how, the town is doing in carrying, out our recommendations put forth in the plan. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your patience. I listened to this, I know the material is really dry, so thank you for listening. And I will now give this back to Jim, and I'm sure you'll find Jim's presentation.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the Commissioner on Disability,
Yeah.
that would be in addition to ADA coordinator?
No, the Commission on Disability would actually be residents of Charlton that have some kind of disability or have a family member with a disability. But the Disability Commission would definitely work in tandem with the ADA coordinator, which would be Andrew. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, so moving on to the transition plan piece, which is the actual building facility assessment. So every facility, building, rec area, and actually streets and signage have their own section as well, have their own report, so they can be lifted out. So if your, highway super only wants to look at the highway, he can pick out his building and look at that. Or Adam, Andrew wants to look at the town hall, actually all your buildings are here, but the town hall and that. So the format of these, and we like to create these in a way that it's usable and that board members, such as yourself, can understand it and read it. And it's also usable for your facilities people, and as I'll show as we go along. So the format itself, and this is for the report in the town hall, which is about 10 pages. So we like to start off with a just general description of the building. When was it constructed? How many levels? Is it brick? Is it wood frame? Whatever it is, and what does it serve? What are the programs? Representative photo. And then we like to talk, we have a narrative, a general summary, which just takes more work, but I think it's useful for lay people as well as for you as board members. We got about 2.5 pages here of narrative, and just quick read, and you can easily see what the areas of non-compliance in the building, without going into the nitty-gritty, which is what follows. So that, I think, is very useful for folks. And then we do go into the detailed assessment, which would be more usable for your facilities people. If you're putting some out to bid, and actually we've had a number of towns actually working with, we did this in Southborough, Halifax, and now we're just finishing up in Ludlow, and they've used this for some of their school buildings. They've lifted out things for their bathrooms and whatnot. Also for the bathroom in the town hall building, and also the bathrooms in their schools. So what we do is, and this is really the crux of each assessment, we have a very detailed description of what the areas of non-compliance. We have the federal code, then we provide the state citation of the state code, and then a very detailed description of what exactly needs to be taken to address that issue. And then we have a priority, a feasibility, and a time frame, and a cost estimate. I'll say rough cost estimate, because It's just the way things are today, it's tough, so we kind of base it on what we know some costs are, have been, and it's, again, it's rough. So let's say this ramp, which right now is not a ramp, it's platform, but it's ramp. So we say this 8-foot ramp to the Board of Select seating has a running slope of up to 8.2%, so it is a ramp, but it lacks railings. So what you would need, so if it was 5% or less, it wouldn't need railings. But because it's 8.2%, it qualifies as a ramp, it technically needs railings. So to make it compliant, and we say here, you need to install paired railings on both sides of the ramp. Upper railing should be 34 to 38 inches above finished floor to the top of the gripping surface, and the lower railings 18 inches to 20 inches above finished floor to the top of the gripping surface. The railing should be round oval in shape, at 1.5 inches to 2 inches in outside diameter, and with 12 inches top and bottom extensions. So if you were going to go and do that, you could just take this, send it to some contractor, and that's what you want. And so you don't have to do any research. So that's why we have all these plans set up, so you can, it's very specific what needs to be done. We look at in our recommendation of action to be taken, the recommendation is based on the higher standard of 521 CMR or ADA. You mentioned, you recall I talked about that at the beginning of the presentation. We also look at, there are tolerances that are allowed, industry standard tolerances. So if you're within a tolerance, we don't include it in the plan. So if an item that's 0 to 2 inches, I'll talk about this in a second, 0 to 2 inches is a 1/8 inch tolerance, 2 to 36 inches is a 1/2 inch tolerance, more than 36 inches is a 1 inch tolerance. I mentioned the reach range before. So that sanitizer for a common area, not a bathroom, is 48 inches above finished floor. So that's more than 36 inches. So if that were 48 3/4 inches high, technically within that 1 inch tolerance, it's okay, so we do not include it in the report. However, if that were now 49 1/4 inches high, it's outside that 1 inch tolerance, it's gonna be in the report saying it's 1 1/4 inches too high. So that's how, we write the report that way. Tolerances do not apply to running slopes, I mentioned that. 8.3% maximum running slope for a ramp, 5.0% running slope for a accessible route of travel, a quote-unquote walkway. Level landing or parking spaces are considered level, which is no more than 2% in any direction. There's no tolerance on those. So if you're 8.4%, you're out of tolerance on a ramp. We have to write it up. Again, is it cost effective to replace a ramp? No, we would recommend get a variance, but technically we write it as that. Toilet seats, adults, are 17 inches to 19 inches high. That 17 to 19, that's your tolerance. So it's 19 1/4 inches, we have to write it up as being non-compliant. Grab bars for adults are 33 to 36 inches above finished floor to the top of the gripping surface. So that's your tolerance. So if it's 36 1/4, we have to write it up again. Does it make sense to do it? We're not telling you that, we just gotta write it up. And then, and no one's probably gonna file a grievance for a 1/4 inch on a grab bar, but we have to write it up. And the same thing with ramp and stair railings is 34 inches high to 38 inches high. So if you're too low or too high, you write it up because the tolerance is that 4 inch tolerance. So we do look at reasonable accommodations in areas for highway, police, fire, in areas which are not usually open to the public, because because ADA does govern public employee workspaces. 5.1 CMR does not, but typically your fire, police, highway must meet certain physical conditions to perform the essential functions of their job. So unless their job description changed, or unless those areas are open to the public, such as a locker room for the highway or a bathroom just for the highway, then we typically recommend that no action taken unless as a result of reasonable accommodation requests, or unless the use of those areas are changed open to the public. And that's all detailed in the report, so you'll see that. So I'm going to quickly just go through fast things common that we found throughout. So, parking, in some places there was no designated accessible parking, or the signage was too low, at least 60 inches to the bottom, or too high, more than 96 inches to the top, or the running slopes were more than 2% cross or running, or they were not van accessible. Some places, buildings, there were outside drop boxes or their internal lobby phones, which were too high. Mike had mentioned the routes of travel where there was a greater than a 1/4 inch unbeveled change in level surface, or more than a 1/2 inch beveled change in level surface, because that is a tripping hazard, and also obstruction for a wheelchair or walkers and other types of. Mike also talked about the operating forces already. So again, a lot of the doors we found there were excessive operating forces, 5 pounds for interior door, 15 pounds for exterior door, and they must take at least 6 seconds to close. We find this in brand new buildings, just it's just check once a year, check and adjust the closers and the hinges. In some cases, the stair railings were not round and oval in shape, and they lacked top and bottom extensions, 12 inches at the top, and the slope distance of 1 tread, and then 12 inches parallel to the ground at the bottom. Again, ramp and stair railings were at the incorrect height. Some facilities had non-compliant knob-style door hardware. Again, we mentioned some areas, the reach ranges, there are some defibrillators, light switches, code hooks, drop boxes which were higher than 48 inches. Under the ADA, they have a provision on doors with glass pane, so you have a door with a glass pane right there. That's at the correct height. They can no more than 43 inches high. So if I'm in a wheelchair, I need to be able to see through that glass pane if someone's coming through that door, just as well as someone who's standing. If it's higher than 43 inches, then it's non-compliance. In some cases, the drinking fountains were not both high and low. A low drinking fountain for a wheelchair user, a higher fountain for a non-wheelchair user. Higher fountain is required at a certain height for people with back issues as well. They must be able to not, bending down and stooping is problematic. Protruding objects, I'm not seeing anything here off the top of my head. Protruding objects is anything that goes more than 4 inches into the accessible route of travel at a height of 27 inches to 80 inches above finished floor. So typically you might, and I think there is in the hallway, a defibrillator, that might be that, and it projects too much. So if I'm sight impaired, I'm not gonna pick up my cane detection, and I'm gonna walk into that and either cause a arm, eye, face injury, possibly. Some tables, and I think there were some in this building, that didn't have the proper knee height, 27 inches. Some service counters, but I think you've corrected most of those now, were in excess of 36 inches, and some of the doorway thresholds were too high. Quickly, bathrooms, again, codex were too, some of the code hooks were too high, dispensers too high. Mike had mentioned the sink piping not wrapped guard or insulated. The grab bar is too high for adults. They're either too high or low, lower than 33 inches, higher than 36 inches. Grab bars, so no more than 6 inches from the interior corner for the rear grab bar, no more than 12 inches for the side grab bar. And in some of the bathrooms, those were exceeded. And very common throughout toilet break inspections, they must be close enough to the toilet so I'm able to actually grab and reach those. And some are either too close or behind the toilet, some are too far. They must be 7 to 9 inches on center in front of the water closet, i.e. the toilet. There are some bathrooms also inadequate clearances on the side, near side, 18 inches on center, 42 inches on the approach side so I can get a transfer of my wheelchair, and 42 inches in front for maneuverability. Sink mirrors can be no more than 40 inches to the bottom of the reflecting surface, not the frame, but the reflecting surface. So again, if I'm in a wheelchair, I can get visual. Some cases there are urinals that were too high, more than 17 inches, and very common with accessible bathroom stalls, stall doors would often open in, they must open out. They must fully self-close, and they must have pull devices on both sides of the door. So especially if you don't have a door that self-closes and no interior pull device, I've got to kind of, if I'm in a wheelchair, reach down and try to grab the bottom of the door to pull it, because there's no pull device that I can shut the door with. We're getting there, almost, maybe 5 minutes. Recreation areas, so again, there is lack of accessible routes of travel fully to and around and within facilities. There are lack of level areas for wheelchair and bleacher seating and benches. Picnic tables lacked knee depth of 19 inches and knee height of 27 inches. An ADA only requirement is that chain link gates must be smooth at the base from the ground level up to a height of 10 inches on the push side of the gate. Presumably, that's for if I'm a wheelchair user, and I'm using the push the gate, I don't want myself caught on that, anything on that gate, so it must be smooth. Sidewalks and curb ramps, and then, portable accessible toilets, again, mentioned, basically non-compliant, even these lines which were accessible. And then there's 2 broadcast booths, and there's more detail in the report on this, on your 2 fields, and those are stairs only, not accessible. But we have options on that, which then you can read more detail, not saying you need to be brought in compliance per se, you have different options on how to address that and how they're used. Sidewalks and curb ramps, we focused on Main Street, portion of it, and Masonic Home Road. One thing, so we did the report back in 2007, dramatic change, I mean, exceptional. The new areas of concrete, I mean, great. I mean, we found so many issues the last time we did this. So there were a couple issues, mainly on the areas where you transitioning to the asphalt and not the concrete areas. There were a couple of crosswalks that lacked accessible warning strips, 3 crosswalks, and I did use it at the far ends when we get into the asphalt area, which lacked level landings and had excessive running slopes. On the area, we had nice concrete finished sidewalks. There was a telephone pole which reduced the clear width, which should be 36 inches down to 32 inches. We see this all the time, whoever comes in, Verizon, AT&T, puts in a telephone pole and then, leaves a gap where you don't patch it and you reduce the clear width, which is insufficient. And there was a mailbox on Main Street, in locations in the report, which is a protruding object because it's where it's situated, the front of the mailbox protrudes into the sidewalk at a height. So if I'm a cane user, I'm not going to pick it up and I'm going to walk into that mailbox. So a couple of noted areas which is of non-compliance, and then there's a couple of kudos. So noted areas of non-compliance, Memorial Fields, there's a portable toilet next to the playground. And it is quote-unquote accessible, but it's not ADA compliant. There was 2 issues there which were problematic. One's an easy fix, so and maybe has been fixed. There was a chain at the top of that door, and the chain restricted the door opening, which should be, well, it's a 36 accessible room too, and a 32-inch door opening, but the chain at the top restricted the door opening to only 27 inches. So if I'm in a wheelchair, I can't get in. So it's an accessible toilet, which I can't use because I can't get in there because the door's opening is restricted. That's coupled with the way it's placed on a concrete pad. There needs to be 18 inches of door pull clearance so I can maneuver over and pull. There's only 10 inches because of the concrete pad. So it needs a little more concrete poured there, but that lack of that door pull clearance plus that lack of that opening really makes it non-usable as a quote-unquote accessible portable toilet. The library children's room bathroom. So we've come on this with a couple of locations with new libraries and new bathrooms. So the children's room bathroom, which presumably would be for children's standards, and not to go into a lot of detail, but there are standards for pre-K, K-3, 4-6, and then 7-12. Unfortunately, there's a difference between ADA and 521, but they can be merged together. And there's, if you look at K-3 and 4-6, there's some, we call it the overlap standard, where you can meet that overlap standard and meet the full breadth of the K through 6 children. What was done in that bathroom, it's a combination of both adult standards and children's standards. So there might be an adult height toilet, but a children height sink, or children height dispensers, or children, again, it's in the report, but an adult toilet with children grab bar heights. So it's just a mishmash of 2. So it needs to be, we do have a very detailed report what some options are. If either wants to go full adult, you go this way. You go children, you go this way. But it should be either all adult or all children, because it's a combination of 2. So technically, it's not compliant for anyone. So that's in the report, and it's options and what to do. Community centers was many issues, you're probably aware. I mean, there's non-compliant limited parking, The main ramp's not compliant, the railing height, the ramp slopes, railing's not pier on both sides, interior, there's not accessible road travel to all the programs and services throughout the building. There's problems with the bathroom, so there are major issues, it's all detailed in the report, but there's a lot of stuff there. There is no accessible route into the main fire station, but in talking to the chief at the time of the assessment, and that work might have already been done. He was in a process to make some entrance work. Yeah. No?
The bid closes on the 23rd, and then the work should be started.
Okay, so he's already got what he needs, and if you do, you have our email, so, like we said, feel free to email us during, after, take photos, so we can, so, on the good stuff, like I mentioned, kudos, accolades. Okay, the elevator, since 2007, now you're an elevator in Town Hall, so you can get into the building, senior center, all that, that's great. Highway garage, I think highway garage, if we were to give out awards, we'd get the award for the building we went into, which had the minimal number of issues, and very minimal. I mean, they were just, again, door closers, we mentioned the closing speed and operating force, that's standard. So, yeah, some doors were a little tough to open and close it fast, you adjust the hinges, no big deal. Right when you came in the entrance, there was a little bit of the asphalt had sloughed a little bit, pressed a little bit, so a little asphalt patch, just to, because it made a little abrupt change. Nothing, that's $50 worth of patch, or not even $25 worth of patch. And then there are 4 doors that needed tactile signage, didn't have, that was it. So it's like $200 worth of work that was, which is nothing, and I think that's, we never been in a building had like virtually nothing that had to be done, or almost nothing. So that's kudos. The building design was excellent, right on. Sidewalks and curb ramps, we just mentioned that, the all work done on Main Street with the ramps and the concrete, great. And then Maynard Field, Maynard Field, we lived out years ago, the parking was, this big stone and rocks, a nice, beautiful parking space, level, nice accessible route to the bleachers. There's some other issues that, should be addressed, little minor things later on further in the site. But parking, accessible route to the bleachers, and that new setup, light years from what it was, years ago. So, that's it. Any questions?
Open it up to the board. First, just thank you, that was a very thorough presentation. It's quite apparent you've done this for a while, so thank you very much. Any questions, Steve, Dasha?
No, but we do have copies of those documents, right?
Yes, I think if there are any comments, or I don't recall in the contract you have with the town, there's so many hard copies, kind of wait for a little bit, if there are any comments that the board members have, if Andrew have, and we can make those adjustment changes, and then we'll update the electronic copy, and then Connor will get the printed copies to you.
Do you need the board to take an official action on ratifying the plan tonight?
Towns do it different ways. I mean, some towns take formal action to vote, some towns will post it on their website for comment for another, couple weeks. And then if the department heads and sees any comment that way, and then any kind of comments and then ratify it, so it's up to and accept it. It's your call how you want to do it. That's probably the proper way. And then we always recommend that you always have an electronic copy on your website, and you always have a copy, obviously, in your office and with the town clerk's office.
Wishes of the board, do you want to post it?
Yeah, posting is not a bad idea. I don't know if we need to ratify it tonight.
Look premature, right?
Yeah.
Unless we-
Just research was posted and then put it on your agenda.
Yeah, we'll put it on a future agenda.
And the other comment we always make, and just mention the chief, because we have towns, we worked 5-6 years ago, and their facilities people still, give us a call and send an email. So if there's anything to Andrew that comes up, don't hesitate. Can't guarantee we can come out, but if you take a photo, a picture on your phone or whatever, and send us what it is or what the question is, we're always available on the phone or by email to get back to you and something. We've done a lot. We had a couple in Halifax. It's a 2-hour ride for me and probably an hour for you. And it's just to get through this. And the facilities guy would be calling us and take a photo, send a picture, get dimensions, and then we'll get back to you. So we're always able, 5 years from now, whatever, to do that.
The last thing, this puts you in a really good position for grant applications moving forward. There's going to be another round from the Mass Office of Disability. There should be. For capital projects next year, those are up to $250,000. Happy to help with the grant application.
That's great. Any other questions, David, anything else? Hearing none, again, thank you on behalf of the board, and appreciate the presentation and the recommendations.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you very much.
Thanks for having us.
I know. All right, moving on down on the agenda, next item would be the Buffinville Lake project. Andrew?
Yeah, so we were granted a license from the Department of Army for the installation, maintenance, repair, and removal of an antenna located on the chimney at Buffinville Lake Ranger Station and radio receiver located in the ranger station at Buffinville Lake project, which had expired on March 31st, 2025. The board is asked to approve and sign a supplemental agreement, which is effective the date of the expiration of the last agreement through March 31st, 2030. And I recommend the board would approve and sign that.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Passes as unanimous, thank you. Andrew, you want to take the next one too?
All right, just in time. All right, so Chief Dowd is requesting that the board consider approving a request to add an additional patrol officer to the ranks within the approved FY26 budget. The requested proposed funding plan have been reviewed and endorsed by the Finance Committee. Attaches information provided to the Finance Committee relative to this request. Chief Dowd is before you this evening to provide information on.
Welcome, Chief Dowd.
Thank you. So one of the biggest problems that we have typically is train people, when somebody's out of work for whatever reason, oftentimes it indicates that they have to pay overtime. And so having an extra body kind of fills some of those voids that were created. We recently did some interviews. We had some quality people that applied. There's only so many positions. We started looking around things we could do, possibly to consider bringing on a new person. Met with Ashley, Andrew, Finance Committee, just trying to see if it was feasible to do it. We had some savings, and we were able to apply some of the funds for capital items that we were looking for next year. We did it a little early, and you have some money possibly coming in from asset forfeiture, money coming in, which will help you offset some costs in the future. I don't think I'm not looking for any money. I'm doing within my existing budget. And I brought the bean counter here to better explain what I'm attempting to do.
So you gave me my little memo from FinCom, so I put this memo together for FinCom last time. So basically, when you look at his budget and the money that we saved between union negotiations and the money that he now was able to work within his FY25 budget, he was able to do some capital items that he would have waited to the fall to do, that we would have used free cash to do. So between that savings plus the savings from contract negotiations, he has it in his budget where he could hire somebody. The only thing that we may possibly have to worry about, which I don't think will be an issue, is the insurance, but I think we'll be fine. So that would be the only place, but he will have some savings that he was able to use by doing capital projects with his FY25 budget. That if I needed to, I could take some free cash in the fall, but I don't think we'll need to. I think he'll be totally fine to be able to add another body in. And then he could do things with that body that could possibly bring more revenue back to the town, so it would offset the cost.
That is the hope.
And you did mention you went before the Finance
Yeah.
Committee and they approved, or they went along.
Yeah, full support.
Any other comments, or is?
No, they were all for it. I mean, at first, I think one member kind of was like, well, you know, this should go in front of town meeting, but because he's not asking for additional monies, if he can do it operationally, he's allowed to. So, but then they all agreed, so.
But you would be asking for that come fall.
I don't think we'll need to, but the only thing that potentially I may need to ask for would be insurance. If that person picks up insurance, I may need to, but when I looked last, I think we'll be fine.
And David, I do look like you had a question.
It's just a comment that I'm familiar with what they're talking about. And I think that You guys have done just an amazing job with budget management over there, and I'm on board 100%. And I would even motion to approve.
So I will say that Chief he's usually really good with his budget, and every year he's always turning back stuff, which obviously gives us free cash. And usually, in like April, May, he usually comes in and says, hey, I had these savings throughout the year, because he's very conservative, and he's able to do capital projects where he would normally have to come and ask for that in the fall. That's free cash, so it would use up some of that monies where he's able to do the project and still turn back money, so we get free cash, so it's kind of a win-win for the town, so.
I would second that.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so it's unanimous, passes, thank you.
Thank you.
Being here tonight. All right, the next item on the agenda would be the town administrator report. Andrew?
All right, so I'll do it real quick here. So just a quick update on our fire station project. So right now, the foundation subgrade work is ongoing at the site. Heritage Drive has been closed for the summer to allow power to install underground drainage controls, and the section of Heritage Drive will be regraded and repaved for the next school year following the installation of the stormwater management system. As far as the schoolhouse, the slate roof and structural repair work to the building have been completed. Crocker is in the process of completing exterior trim work on the building under phase 1 repairs. Mass Historical Commission has increased their reimbursement on the project by an additional $50,000 from what was originally granted to the town, so some great cost savings there for the project. And we're anticipating that the final inspection from MHC is going to occur within the next few weeks. Some other things going on, the Charlotte Police Department is going to be hosting a summer send-off event on Thursday, August 21st up at Bay Path. This is going to be similar to a National Night Out event that was held last year, and the goal essentially is to bring first responders in the community together. And just wanted to acknowledge that over the last few months, our office has been working to restore the historical Sealer weights and measures cabinet, which has been in the town's possession since 1848. And I just wanted to acknowledge the work of Mary and Jim Burlingame working on this restoration project, which is now inside of our office. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. The next item is just to call for any agenda items from the select board members. If you say anything now, or you can certainly email.
Yeah, you know, I have one. The town of Ocam had an interesting article in the newspaper about solar panels and battery storage. And I wonder if it's not a bad idea if we invite planning board in.
We actually were going to invite, that was something I'd requested, so we're hoping the planning board will be here at the next meeting to go over the, because they drive the buses, they say, for the master plan, but if that's something we could talk
Just like
about.
where they are, what activity, anything, things that they can talk about.
Yeah, and we'll let them know so they can post that, so you know what we're going to be discussing.
I was
Hey, you're excited.
No problem.
And now, David, you good?
I'll say.
So our next regular select board meeting will be August 12th, 2025 at 6:30 PM at the town hall in meeting room 1. And now I will need a motion to adjourn and go into executive session. And when we do, remember, we have to do like a roll call to go into the executive session.
So move. Steve, aye?
Prashad?
We gotta read it. Oh, read it.
Adjourn executive session under chapter MGL C30A, section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, Charlton Highway contract, Charlton Perimeter Firefighters Association, IAAF Local 4023 contract. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of a public body, and so the chair declares to return to open session if needed, and to adjourn.
Thank you. That being said, I'll do a roll call vote.
Steve, aye?
Tasha, aye.
David, aye.
Karen, aye. Now we're adjourned and into executive session.